You remember going to the Wilds that time, throwing a baseball, that competition? You said that you and I had. You always say you forgot it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Because I beat you that day.
Oh,
You always say, I don't remember that at all.
That's why you remember.
That's why
I choose to forget my failures and move on with the victory.
When it comes to goals, it's little things that make a big difference.
Yeah.
I read in 2000, I think it was 2003. I think his name was Dave Brailsford, the British cycling team. James Clear and Atomic Habits. By the way, anyone that wants to have goals, James Clear, terrific book. Atomic Habits is amazing.
Yeah.
One of the illustrations he gave was of this British cycling team that had been in obscurity for years and years and years. I think they had won one major event over the previous 100 years had been pretty mediocre. And so they hire him and he comes in and he decided we're going to break everything down. And we're going to find, listen, we all have these major parameters. Our bikes have two wheels. We've got handlebars. We've got brakes. I mean, there are things that are just, they are these things. But if we can discover very small things that can give us just very minute performance edges over the competition. These things add up. So what they started doing was they started testing mattresses and pillows that each of the athletes would get their best sleep. They had a surgeon or a doctor rather come in and teach them how to wash their hands so that they didn't get colds as often, so that they, these, and at the end of it, all of a sudden they talked about rubbing alcohol on tires. They gave them better grip. All these little things, size of seats and comfort of little things that one of them wouldn't have made a huge difference. But all of them added up starts making this major difference. And they talk about improving 1%. If you improved 1% of something every day, at the end of the year, you've improved 37% in an area. And so I think that the goal part of this is, okay, it can't be wishful thinking. I'm just going to change my whole life and I'm just going to get fit and I'm just going to be a great mom. I'll be a great leader at work. No. Okay. Where are those little areas that I need to focus on this year? What's the word of the year that I can kind of focus in on a little bit and just start making some incremental changes?
And that compounding effort is so good. I remember reading that book and just being sort of life change in that principle of it's the little things that begin to add up. And I think I hope that people are transitioning out of the get quick scheme of getting fit fast, losing weight or getting fit in all of that area. People want it done in a week and they want results fast or in a month. Where's the results? Or wealth is the same thing. I've seen people just like, how can I, cryptocurrency, stock market or whatever. It's like, how can I get something quick, or chasing after like their little hobby and trying to find, and there's nothing wrong with these things, but the principle of, cause you could have goals within that. Like, I want to get rich. I want to get fit. I'm ready to go. I've got my steps. I'm specific. The problem that you're missing is building the 1%, the habits over time. And I think this is a great part that if I could share this with you mentioned having a sour relationship with goals when it comes to the new year, that I think there could be some people, and I've been in that boat where it's like, do I really have to come up with a whole bunch of goals? Like everyone's on this boat of motivation to like, here's what we're going to do. And all these goals laid out and all these plans. And I feel like over time, what's more important than just coming up with a new year strategy that's just going to take over your next 12 months is to think, how can you develop habitual goal setting times and moments? Because it's the habits that is actually going to move the needle. And I think I've gotten into a habit where goal setting is literally it's probably too much, but it's like every week of my life, where it's not just, I got to wait till the next 12 months to get, back into the fitness scheme or back into the diet scheme. It's more of a daily routine that you're constantly evaluating yourself. You're constantly thinking, are we really doing what matters here? Okay, let's reassess, let's evaluate, let's do this. Are we growing mentally? Are we growing spiritually? How is that? And those habits are so crucial. So in other words, to underscore what I just said is, don't think so much about the goal, because the goal is more of a destination. It's an object that you reach it, and then you're left there at the top of the mountain and you're like, well, I guess there's another mountain to go after. But think about the steps, and the steps is what creates the habit. And just enjoy the journey as you're hiking. Like, wow, look at the flowers over there. Look at the trees over here. And eventually you look back and you're like, wow, look how far we've climbed. And so the key here is you're not necessarily establishing these grandiose goals as much as you are infusing habits over time.
Okay, great point. If you set everything up on a goal, okay, let's say the goal is to lose 50 pounds. Okay. Well, even if you take some steps and say, well, I got to get into the gym every day. I've got a meal plan. I'm not going to buy lunch out. I'm going to pack my lunch and take I even have all the steps, right? If you set up everything toward just the goal, you get to enjoy that goal one day.
Yep.
I just lost 50 pounds. Finally, I lost 50 pounds. I got this. But so much more powerful, to your point, to enjoy the journey, to see the flowers, to take in the views. So, okay, here's my goal, 50 pounds, right? I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to get fit. Okay, here are the things I'm going to do. Okay, every day that you go to the gym, you enjoy that goal. You enjoy not the destination, you enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
I'm on my way. Hey, today was part of the process. You have to celebrate the wins on the way, right? You've got to be able to take in and enjoy everything that just happened. You don't want to just enjoy that goal once, when you hit 50 pounds.
Right.
No, every day that I packed my lunch, every day that I went to the gym, every day that I watched what I ate, every day that I did whatever that was going to push that needle. I think that really is important to begin to learn to enjoy the journey.
And I think I think that's great. I think if we put sort of levels of expertise when it comes to setting goals, it's like level 1, set a goal and meet it. 10 pounds, 50 pounds, you meet it. Okay, you're at level 1, but actually there's an expert level, another level. To level up, level 2 is make it sustainable. Okay, you lost 50, can you keep it? Or maybe you want to improve upon that or go another direction with that and cut down a bit.
But I think that also goes into the enjoying the journey part of it. Like, okay, if my goal was to lose 50 pounds, I hit it, boom, celebrate, I won, it's over. No, now I still enjoy this journey that I've been on. And by the way, that kind of goes into identity a little bit. I think sometimes we I would run, but I'm not a runner. I would write, but I'm not a writer. I think James Clear talks about changing your mindset in, you may not have run a marathon yet. You might not be, a professional runner in major, but last week you ran 3 times, you're a runner. And what do runners do?
They run.
Runners run, right? And so change your, I've not written a book. I've got a few that I've kind of dabbled with. And one of my goals is, I want to write. I want to put some things down, right?
But you're not a writer.
But I'm not a writer. But then you know what I've realized recently? I write every single week of my life. When I sit down and write a sermon, I manuscript mine. I write every single week of my life. And I think that it does take a barrier down of, I would do that, but I'm not that. I can't see myself in that. No, if I write, I'm a writer, right? I'm an athlete, right? Well, you might not be playing in the NBA, but hey, you go to the gym or you exercise in the morning, or just the way you see yourself, I think sometimes changes it.
It creeps in a bit, and then it kind of demotivates you. Because you're right. Yeah, I think about that too. Like, okay, I'm not an athlete. I did some athletic things in high school, whatever. But it just depends on where you're at. It's like, if that's the motivation that you need, to
you're an
reform.
Athlete. You're athletic. You remember going to the Wilds that time, throwing a baseball, that competition? You said that you and I had. You always say you forgot it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Because I beat you that day.
Oh,
you always say, I don't remember that
at all.
That's
why you remember.
That's why
I choose to forget my failures and move on with the victories.
Hey, here's another reason that people quit, though. Overwhelm, right? I think when it comes to goals, and I think that we quit, and I think you said this a minute ago, we often get overwhelmed with a goal because we set too many goals.
Yeah.
Do you have advice
there
about that?
There could be too many goals. Yeah, I think that underscores, I'm not sure if we talked about this yet, but making it achievable.
Yeah.
using a simple one like the 50 pounds thing. Well, if you're 150 pounds, it's probably not very healthy for you, to lose 50 pounds.
Right.
In other words, make something very achievable. And I think people are a little too ambitious or bite off more than they can chew when it comes to goals, and then they get overwhelmed and then they quit. And I think what works in tandem with that is sustainability. So exactly kind of what we were just talking about is in enjoying the journey is, can you sustain this afterwards? You celebrate the win. We lost the weight. We read the books. We wrote a book. We did something great. But we're still a writer. We're still an athlete or whatever we want. We're still a runner. Let's just keep running and let's go on to the next mile marker, if you will. But making it sustainable. I think this definitely applies mainly, and this is a huge one for people, and I don't think it's a vanity thing at all, but it definitely applies to big diet and exercise, is people create diets that are just not sustainable, where they're eating carrots and celery for the first week and then they give up week 2. Well, no, duh, your body needs that. And it depends on what diet you're in. And I know there's some newer diets and all of that, but the point is is make something that you can sustain really for the rest of your life. And that goes to the atomic habit part, is if you can sustain it, now you're building 1%. Would you rather, lose 20 pounds in the first month or 50 pounds over a year, and then give up after the 20 pounds and then gain it back?
That's right.
The next month because you're just kind of doing these fastings and then picking up the weight again.
Right.
So I think what's really important is finding goals that you can sustain throughout your life.
Yes.
Making these habits, and then you're building upon that 1%.
You're building on. But part of the reason we quit and we're inconsistent or we're overwhelmed or we fail is because, let's take the gym illustration for a minute too. You go to the gym and you go home and you look in the mirror and there's no change. And you go for a week and you come home and you look in the mirror and you don't see any difference. And it might even be that way for 6 or 8 weeks. You really can't even notice there was a difference. But what happens is changes are being made at the cellular level, right? And we think that it's going to be like this. The progress, the first day we go to the gym begins to, the progress is just this linear, but it's at the cellular, and the progress looks more like this. It kind of takes off. It's like bamboo. There's some species of bamboo that for years you don't even see it sprout up out of the ground. But then in 3 months, it can grow to 90 feet. And what's happening? It's putting those roots down, the cellular, the root system, the strength that one day I've got to support this thing. And so that's how our habits run too. You don't see the result right away, but you just stay at it. And before you know it, things start to change.
Yeah. And I think going back to how to stay consistent, because that's hard when the grass shoots aren't growing.
When you're not seeing the results.
When you're not seeing the results, what is another way to keep the consistency? We talked about motivation, and that kind of almost feels a little wishful thinking. It does work if you really dig down into the psychology of I want this desire, I don't want this disaster. That works.
Yeah.
But I think another more practical one is accountability.
Yeah.
Is having a workout buddy is a huge one. Like, we're talking to the church here, so find someone in your life group. If it's a fitness thing, a mom's group or whatever, it's just, hey, let's do this little diet together, or let's go to the gym, or we can work out at home and we'll just keep each other accountable. If it's your spouse, that's an easy one. Just say, hey, keeping me accountable. This is the goal I want to do. Having just a close friend, compadre, just to say, hey, how are you doing with your goals? And it's hard for them too to keep you accountable. The best accountability partners in this realm are also ones who do it with you.
Yeah, sure.
I think.
Sure.
If you just have someone like, hey, can you keep me accountable about reading some books? They're going to forget.
Yeah, they forget. They're doing their own things.
But if they're doing it and you're doing it, that helps.
Our church staff, we did, the guys, we did an 86-hour fast earlier in 2024. And that's hard.
Yeah, you did it together. 86
we did it
hours.
Together. And
after Dana White, you're like, let's do this.
That's right. There were moments that, honestly, if I didn't know that I was going to have to tell them that I broke it, you know what I mean? There's something in you that goes, I'm not going to be the guy that's just going to give up. You know what I mean? They'll quit before I'll quit, kind of thing. if there weren't some of those moments, I'm sure that I would have had something to eat in the middle of all of that. I think it's powerful having that accountability when it comes to maybe it's your time with God, your Bible reading. What are you learning? How are you growing? To have somebody in your life that's even a daily check-in that, hey, it could be a 1 or 2 or 3 sentence. This is what I got from God today. This is what I read today. This is what I prayed for today. This is whatever. I think it is powerful to have somebody in your life that you can do some things with. As far as the gym's concerned, Bill goes, I go. We text a lot about it. We don't go together, but I do text him pictures.
But you're in like a little community of it. Well, it's just you and him, but it doesn't always have to be a single person, too.
It doesn't.
Sometimes it can be a community of people.
Absolutely. But I will, sometimes it's even a competition. I'll text him, hey, while you were in bed this morning, I got better. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And he'll come back with little things. Just to have somebody that I've got somebody that I'm talking with about this.
Right.
I think it does help us. Anything else that, I did want to mention this. Craig Rochelle talks about this. He's one of the more disciplined, habitual guys in the world. And he talks about the overwhelm sometimes being, I set too many goals. He's big on setting one goal for the year. 1 year, he says, when he started the whole thing, he said, my goal, this is going to sound funny, my goal is to floss. Every day, I'm going to floss. This is years ago now, but I'm going to floss every day. But he said the power of that was, okay, I changed my habit in this area, and it began to show me that I could change my habits in other places. Yeah. And sometimes we want to do 30 things. Well, then you don't do 30 things, right? There's just too much. Yeah, but you take one thing and I'm gonna make sure this happens.
Because when you don't follow through with your goal, you're painting a narrative for your identity that you're a loser. That you're losing and you're failing. And as much ounce of energy that still exists come the next year, you're still doing the goals, but your excitement and fervor to create more and more goals is beginning to dwindle. And then you get older and older and you're like, well, that seemed completely pointless, that I bought into this idea of goals and resolutions. And I think, Craig Rochelle has it right on a nail on the head, especially for a guy who seems, he's vastly disciplined with all really areas in his life. But having one goal is, I think you hit it so well, is knowing that you can win, that you're a winner. Like, I can floss, and I did it for a year, or I can read a book. I can do this. And imagine if you created that habit. We've got flossing, we've got journaling, we've got losing some weight or fitness, we've got the myriad of goals. Imagine if you're able to do that for an entire year, then it becomes a part of you. It becomes like, well, that's just what I do. I've been trying to do that with fitness and stuff I don't have a gym membership. I don't have really much fitness equipment, but I'm able to do like a lot of calisthenics at home. I've got a pull-up bar, a couple free weights or whatever. And I try to do like 20 minutes or so about 5 days a week. And I know from my past, like I used to hit the gym in college and hit it hard or whatever. And so my standard of excellence or standard of knowing that this is the win is spending an hour in the gym. Anything less than that, might as well not even do it. And so it goes back to that 1% too, and that building that habits. But I was like, you know what? I'm tired of not doing anything at all. So something is better than nothing. Yes. Flossing is better than not flossing. Yes. So let's do it. Yes. And I've been doing that and seeing just how great it is. And I'm not overwhelmed by, did I get my hour in the gym 5 days a week? Are we pumping it in there? Or whatever goal it is sometimes we overwhelm ourselves with too much goal setting that just taking off little bite sizes and
something is better than nothing. Yeah. That's a great way to put that. And we've been using the gym or flossing. And by the way, you don't want the dentist to ask you, you've got your annual review. Hey, when was the last time you flossed? And you have to look at him and say, dude, you were there. His little steps, every day. We've talked a lot about the gym side of it. from a spiritual aspect, I think sometimes we can get discouraged too, because, well, I'm gonna read the Bible in a year, and or if you've got all these goals, I'm gonna journal every day. It can be discouraging when you don't make whatever that goal is, that Bible reading goal. That and the Bible says, a just man falleth 7 times, but here's the key: he riseth up again. And it's interesting, there are some things in life that we will fail at over and over and over again, but we desire it so much that we go back to it. Golf. The first time I teed up a golf ball, I didn't hit it 300 yards down the middle of the fairway.
Right.
The first time I played baseball, I didn't hit a home run, right? But I loved golf. I loved playing baseball. I loved the process and the camaraderie and the teammates and all the things that I loved about it. Well, you've got to pick yourself back up again and just dust yourself off a little bit and keep on going. When you fail at a goal, don't let that failure be 2 days. Don't let it be 3 days.
Yeah.
Don't let it be 7 days. Whatever it came to be, okay, that ends today. Let me get back in the Word today. And by the way, some habits have to change, even as I can't spend time with God in the morning if I wake up 30 minutes before I've got to be at work. Some of these things, and I can't wake up a half an hour, an hour and a half before I got to leave for work if I don't go to bed at a certain, some of these things we kind of sabotage ourselves, and you've almost got to reverse engineer some of it. If I'm going to be at my best in the morning, then I've got to get some rest at night. Okay, if I'm going to get some rest at night, what has to happen last night for me to...
Yeah.
I think we've got to begin to set up some systems and help ourselves.
And all of that stuff, some people just don't care to go through the analyzation that you just did through that. And I think that goes back to the desire that I was talking about. Like, you won't accomplish your goal if you don't desire it enough, essentially. Now, of course, it's not just wishful thinking. You can't actualize it in your consciousness and say, I'm going to be, I'm going to journal, and then boom, these words appear on the paper. That's just not going to, that's not how it works. You do have to do it. But it starts with that, going back to the conversation of how we started, it starts with the spiritual foundation of why, what really matters here. And then that desire, and then contrasting that with, I don't want to do this, and I really want to do this. So what are the steps? Make it measurable, achievable, sustainable, accountable, all of those things.
So a word with all of that might be automate some things, right? Aren't there some things we could automate? Okay, let me take...
That's what essentially a habit is automating that. And know that the hardest time to forming a habit is the forming part. But once it's created, and I don't know what the science is. I don't know if it's 40 days if you do the same thing, like buttoning your shirt. I've heard of that illustration. If you button it down and then that's what you normally do, but then you want to, and it's arbitrary. There's no moral implications here. But if you start buttoning it up, it takes 40 days to create that new habit that when you go put on a shirt, you don't think about it and you just do it. And that's automation. That's something that you do without thinking about it. If that's what you're saying.
No, absolutely. I think specifically though about, okay, I want to invest. I want to be an investor, right? So instead of every single month...
You're in the wrong industry then.
Instead of every single month, okay, what do I have? I got to make a decision now on how much I'm going to put into the 401k or... No, let me automate it. You know what I mean? Let me just go ahead and I don't even see that money. It goes right into this account, and I've automated the discipline of investing, right? There are some... I'm church world, right? You just said I'm in the wrong industry. I'm in the church world, right? I would encourage people in our church, even you can automate your giving, right? You're a giver. You're a benefactor of God's blessing in your life. The Bible talks about the tithe and giving back to Him. Well, why make yourself make a decision? Some months you may be in a weak moment, right? Man, I got Christmas coming up and gifts got to go out and we got travel coming and we got all these things. No, I'm not even in a strong moment. I'm going to automate the decision. I'm going to make this a recurring gift. I'm not even going to think about it. It automatically comes. I think there are probably some things we could automate to help us. Don't make the decision in the moment. Make the decision in advance. Are there other ways we could do that?
Automating, I don't know. Like for me, if there's an ideal schedule, I don't know if you've seen those people where it's like, follow me in the day in the life of a filmmaker, the day in the life of a pastor or something, and you watch these little vlogs, and then
Yeah.
it's obviously their best and most busy and productive day. But that is what we would call an ideal day. And so what does your ideal day look like? And how do you form that? Because then you know, okay, if I can't accomplish the things that I want to, then we're not going to get those things done. If there's no automation is going to happen. But like for me, it would be, after getting up in the morning and then coming to the office, like having a journal time and writing something down, is just spending some time. And really, I mean, you could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and you feel really focused. But I've noticed the older I get, the more productive I am in the morning. And then I leave the later hours in the day to be a little bit more free thinking, creative, and not so much rigid and disciplined. A lot of times I'll maybe do some dishes in the morning or clean. I'm not saying that I'm this trooper of doing like the hero of cleaning the house or anything. But the point is, like, I feel a little bit more productive in the morning. And that's like the automation. It's like get up and I do that. Yeah. And so I think if you evaluate not every little minute of the day, because there's going to be some variation. Sure. But like I mentioned, leaving the office. Leaving the office, turn off the brain. Turn off the not too much, but turn off the business stuff and get. So that's like automated, ready to go. But I don't know.
Kerry Newhoff has a great, he's got a book called At Your Best, and he talks about 3 zones, and I read it last year. You've got your green zone, your yellow zone, and your red zone. Every person has probably, he says, 2, maybe 3 hours a day that you're, quote unquote, at your best, right? Yeah. Where your mind is sharp, where you're getting things done. That'd be your green zone. And everyone's different. You know, your green zone might be the moment you wake up until 10:30. Maybe your green zone is from 9 to noon or whatever. Some people, their green zone is 8 o'clock at night to 10 o'clock at night. You know, they just, their bodies. But his book is all about figure out what your green zone is, and then line your tasks up, your most important work. If you write, well, it needs to be in your green zone. If you're a creative person and your career depends on your creativity, well, then you need to try to be creative during your green zone, right? I mean, you need to do what you do best, what you only can do during your green zone. Yellow zone for me, so green zone for me needs to be sermon prep. I mean, they're vision casting, these kind of things I think is important. Yellow zone may be a little bit different. Yellow zone, I can have meetings in my yellow zone and be totally fine, right? We can meet, we can talk, I can help. I'm not at my best necessarily, but I'm okay. Red zone. Well, what do you do during your red zone? Well, I still got to work. I know I've put 3 hours in. I was at my best, but now I've got some time I'm not. Well, emails can be responded to in your red zone. You kind of figure out, what do I do the best at certain times of my life? It would be, for anyone that's not read that book, I think it's really super helpful to kind of go through that and read At Your Best by Kerry Newhoff. It's pretty interesting too. Yeah. Let's go through this real quick. SMART goals, right? We've already mentioned a couple of them, so let's kind of go through them fast. To have goals, you ought to make them SMART. S would be specific. We talked about that. Not just a wish or a dream.
I did not know this was an acronym.
So it is SMART goals. S would be specific. M is the measurable, and that was mentioned already. Measurable goals. Okay, not just the wishful thinking, but these are things I can touch, I can feel, I can taste, I can see that these things were done. The E is achievable.
The A?
Did I say A? Did I say E? The A.
Yeah. I got you.
SMART goals.
You're in your red zone.
I'm not in green yet at all. A, achievable. Sorry. We talked about you can throw too many things out there. And that's not good either. So we kind of talked about those 3, the specific, the measurable, the achievable. The R is relevant. You want your goals to align.
Does it matter?
Does it matter?
Yeah.
You want them to align with your life goals.
Yeah. What's the T?
Oh, the T is time bound. Yeah. Well, you want to make it so that, okay, I'm putting myself, I'm giving myself an amount of time to whether you accomplish it or you start it, or you're giving it it's not just I want to write. Yeah. Okay. Well, if I have a deadline, if I'm I want to have this book done by this.
Right,
Well,
right.
you know, did I make the goal or not? You know, am I
Right.
And by the way, you're a creative person. You work better typically. Maybe you don't, but typically creatives work better when there's a deadline, right?
Oh, yeah.
Creatives and you. Everyone's different. I don't want to put anyone in too much of a stereotype
In terms
here.
of getting things done.
You have to,
Yeah,
but sometimes you work best when the
There is a
pressure's
deadline.
on,
Yeah, the
right?
pressure's on,
I gotta have,
Yeah.
you know, I've got a year to do this,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna do this. I know that here's my time.
Yeah.
You know, it's about to be done.
Yeah.
I've got.
Yeah, the depth of your creativity is done without the deadline, but the actual getting something done is done with the deadline.
Yeah.
For sure. But
Part of that is because creativity, there's so many options.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so much to do. Oh man, I could go this way,
What
this
path
way.
should I go down?
Where
when
can
you're
I?
trying
And
to-
for so long, you think about, I could do all these things. When the time bound comes, it's like, I got to choose one. I've discovered about myself in sermon writing. I could start writing a sermon on Monday. I could start on Tuesday. Okay. And that'd be fine, I'm sure. But here's what I found. I will still end up in the same place on Friday than if I started my sermon preparation on Thursday morning. And that's how I do it now. Thursday morning, Friday, I study and I write my sermon because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I've got time. Oh, what if I went down this way? Oh, you know what though? This is another path I could take.
But do you meditate? Do you feel like the first 3 days help sort of get the wheels oiled up? I guess.
Sometimes you listen to a sermon over the subject you're going to preach. Sometimes you just do some reading in the scriptures of different passages. You do want to marinate a little bit on it.
Yeah, the marinade part is so important.
Yes, I think that is true. But for me to actually
you gotta
sit
heat up the grill.
down,
You gotta-
that's right. I got to cook something at some point. And for me to try to cook on Monday, I'm not ready to cook yet. That's a great host. I'm not ready to cook yet.
Let him cook.
It's on the marinade.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get some thoughts and ideas, but the pressure of actual sermon writing doesn't start for me till Thursday morning, and then I
something
can start.
sizzling.
Something now you got some. But hey, listen, I gotta deliver a meal to the table on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And so I can't marinate all week. At some point, the grill's got to turn on, and I got to start producing something a little.
We could just keep going with the metaphor.
I
though.
love it. What a great metaphor.
This is a little too well done, Pastor. You overcooked this one. It's not nutritious for me.
That's right.
When are the brownies coming? You know? Did you work on those this week? When's something good?
Yeah, I should have started earlier. What have we not talked about yet? Anything that we've not talked about goal setting or?
I think we've covered it all. We've exhausted our knowledge on goals. Maybe we should actually go do them now.
Maybe we should put some of them to practice. I think I want to be better in December of 25 than I am in December of 24. I want to be better next year, a year from now. And the only way you're going to really make that change is by beginning to evaluate, being honest, being aware, being humble.
All good stuff, yeah.
Making sure that, okay, this is who I am now. I don't want to be this in
good.
12 months.
Yeah.
How do I start making the changes to get where I want to go?
I think it really is so good. I think having that hunger and thirst to be better, and you could say that's a goal, but it's not any of the measurable, attainable.
Sure.
You know, what does being better mean? And I think really recognizing what really matters, having those heart-to-heart conversations with your family, with your spouse, with yourself, with God, and really, really recognizing that for you. Saves so much time in the long run. You're not necessarily building a legacy, but boy, is it so great when you look back 5 years over your life and you look back and you don't think of it as, boy, I'm so glad that I listened to a podcast, that I did all these New Year's resolutions. It's more of just habit forming and not as much the goal setting. You got to start with a goal, but you're building habits. And then you look at yourself 5 years from now or a year from now, and you say, boy, I really dug into what matters. And now I'm on the right trajectory. That's important. And we're building these habits that now I'm kind of cruising down it's like a cyclist. We mentioned one cycle illustration, but the climb is the hardest part. And there's definitely downhill, but just imagine if everything was level. And I know life is not level at all, but when you get momentum, it's a lot easier to pedal at a higher momentum than it is from when you first started. And so right now you may be just starting and it's hard to get pedaling and you got to apply all these principles that we're throwing at you. But when you get the momentum, you're still pedaling, you're still putting out out energy, but boy, it's a lot easier when you go and you can just enjoy the breeze, enjoy the journey. And I feel that a little bit, a bit of a rhythm when it comes to my life that I've applied I've had a lot of failures, a lot of discouragement, a lot of overwhelming times when it comes to just goal setting. And like, man, should I actually set goals? This is kind of annoying, like, cause I never follow through with them, but I fine-tuned it to just habit forming. And now it's like, well, I read books regularly. I don't really need to set that goal. I just read them.
You do it, yeah.
I journal regularly. So that's what you do. And that's what I want to do. And then you just incrementally improve and you don't overwhelm yourself. You don't put too many weights on the race. You got to cast off a little bit too. There can be too many goals that are weighing you down on the journey ahead. So.
Yeah. Great metaphor. Hey, that's a great place to end too. Drew, thank you for sitting down and talking with me about this.
It was great.
Yeah, I want to be improving, and I want to move forward.
You can improve on your spelling of your acronyms.
SMIRT.
Goal
SMIRT goals.
SMIRT. And we almost forgot the T, so it's just the SMIRT goals.
I know. I love it. Hey, thanks for sitting down with me today and talking through this a little bit. And Castleview, thank you for watching once again. I really want 2025 to be a year that I'm better, that you're better, that we are following Jesus more passionately, more effectively. And so let's pray together that that's what God would allow us to do. If you've never been a goal setter, hey, sit down today. Think of something. Pray about something. God, what would move the needle the most in my life if I started to put this one thing to practice in my life? Hey, thanks for listening again, and we will see you next time on the Castleview Baptist podcast.